I'm recording too.
What is up, peoples? What is up? What is up, my peoples of the podcast? Clint, guess what?
What? Once again, I couldn't help notice there was no music.
Yeah, Sean Michelle will come later.
Oh, Willie? Okay, good.
We're doing another interview today.
Are we?
Yeah.
I wonder whoever we could be interviewing.
I don't know if they might have a connection to the shirt you're wearing. Which if you're listening to this on Apple or Spotify and there's a ring coming at us, yeah, that's a shiny ring. We're interviewing your old college football coach.
And he was actually my position coach as well.
Position coach. That's right. Steve Mullins, legendary coach, Hall of Famer from UAM, playing there, All-American there. And then actually from Camden, was a Camden Panther, graduated from there, and now is retired. But man, it was a fun interview, Clint.
It really was. It really was. Man, it was one of them deals. The time flew. I could have sat there and caught up with him all day.
Yeah.
And just a brilliant mind and a lot of fun.
Well, in the same episode, he calls you sexy.
He does.
And he calls both of us fat.
He does.
And I don't care. I mean, it was good.
I don't know.
I mean, it was entertaining. So it was fun. I really enjoyed it.
Hey, and your guys, does he make me get up and run during the run gassers?
We're just gonna have to watch and see.
You're gonna have to watch and find out.
Maybe some gassers, there may not.
So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Steve Mullins.
Enjoy.
1, 2, 3, 4. You ever seen a lame man walk? Ever heard a dumb man talk? Never seen a blind man see? I promise you a change is made. You ever seen a cancer dead? Ever seen all the poor get fed? Ever seen a prisoner set free? I promise you a change is made.
Hey everybody, how you doing today? We got another episode of the Big C and Bigger T podcast. I'm here as always with my partner in crime, Big C, Clint Cart, coming at you live with his Arkansas Tech shirt on.
That's right there we go.
77. Clint, I wonder why you're wearing that today, man.
Man, I tell you what, if at some point you hear first group ready, and a whistle blows, and I take off running,
Okay.
that's because them words have haunted me for many, many years.
Oh, you know that those are special words to you.
Yeah, they were. First group ready. And you hear that whistle blow, and you just take off running.
Well,
Legendary
special guest.
Oh, yeah, I'm absolutely legendary Arkansas Tech football coach, athletic director, the first man to coach a team to the Gulf South Conference title outright from the state of Arkansas, Coach Steve Mullins.
All right, Coach.
Thank you there, Clint.
Coach, man, it's great to have you on our little podcast here, and we're excited.
I'm excited to be here.
And man, we just want to have a great conversation, and whatever you want to tell us, and however you want to make fun of Clint and tell us bad stories about him. I mean, we don't get tired of that around here. So, whatever. Well, Coach, tell us a little bit about where did you grow up? Where'd you go to school at? All that kind of stuff.
All right. Try to be brief as possible. When I was growing up, it was just me and my mother. We moved around quite a bit. We lived in California and Texas and Missouri and Arkansas, and spent most of my life growing up in Arkansas. And I ended up graduating from Camden High School down in southern Arkansas. Then from there, went to school at the Harvard of the South.
Yeah.
That would be the University of Arkansas at Monticello.
Yeah.
And
now, let me stop you real quick. Okay?
All right, go ahead.
I'm a pastor in Thornton.
Oh, okay. Very good. Yeah, I did not know that.
I was a youth pastor in Camden for like 18 years.
Oh my gosh, are you serious?
Yeah. So you were a Panther?
Oh yeah. Yeah, which they don't exist anymore. But yeah, I
No,
was a
they
Camden
don't.
Panther.
Now not the, Coleman Stadium's still there.
Barely.
Barely. Yeah. It's still there, but barely, like you said, barely, and some of that. So what was your life like? Camden was a little different than it is now.
Yeah, a little bit, but it was kind of it had a little bit of an edge to it. And there were some tough characters down there. And of course, us Camden kids, we were the city kids, and the Fairview kids were the country kids.
Yeah.
And so, and there wasn't a lot of mixture in between. And obviously now they consolidated because Camden schools went downhill quickly.
Yeah.
And anyway, but it was fun. I've got a lot of good friends, a lot of great memories. Talking about that area and talking about Thornton, my mother and my grandmother are buried at a little Mount Holly cemetery outside of Bearden, Arkansas.
Yeah.
And anyway, I get back there, probably once every 3 or 4 months. I just like to go back. A lot of great memories.
Yeah.
And
well, tell us about real quick that rivalry, because here's the deal. I don't think other people understand this. Camden Fairview is one school now, but it was 2 schools. And were you both 5? Oh, wait, that was back. They're both 4 then.
Yeah, back in that day, there weren't as many classifications, and we were actually 3A during that time.
Okay.
But there were only 4 classifications in the state at the time.
Exactly. So the second biggest classification in the state. 2 of those schools in one town.
Yep.
And literally, Clint, they're right next to each other. I mean, like, as far as not very far, like less than 3-minute drive to get from one to the other. I mean, almost. Well.
Oh yeah. It was intense, and my senior year in high school, we had a really, really good football team, and it was a weird deal back in the day, which is just the opposite of what it should have been. Camden and Fairview played the first game of the year. And so you can imagine the build up to that game. Oh, yeah. But then the flip side of it, when you lose the biggest game of your year, you're going to play the first game of the year. Yeah. And I always thought that was stupid. Yeah. Should have been the last game. But anyway, my senior year, we beat the dog out of them, I'll say. Yeah. But we went out, and I know high school is obviously a lot shorter quarters in college, but we held the ball for the entire 3rd quarter and the first 2 plays of the 4th quarter. Wow. We were very methodical. Yeah. Nobody could relate to this. We lined up in the power I. Yeah. And it truly was just 3 yards. Let's be physical. Let's see how, bad we can beat people down. Oh, that's great. And we were blessed with talent on that team. And I'm talking about Division II and up. Mm-hmm. I'm not talking about just the Division I, Division II and up. We ended up counting sophomores through seniors. There were like 10 guys that signed off that team to play collegiate football at some level. So we had a good team.
That's so neat. Yeah, I knew someone in my time in Camden, someone told me that you had graduated from Camden.
Yep.
I couldn't remember. I couldn't remember for sure. I knew I'd had that conversation with someone. Now, were you down there around the same time? I don't know age-wise, but Tuberville was at Harmony Grove?
Yeah, and I'm older than Tommy.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Just a little bit. Yeah, he was at Harmony Grove, and then he went to Southern Arkansas is where he went. And obviously he's now a senator for the state of Alabama.
Yeah.
Now, myself and Jumbo, we were from rival high schools.
Yep.
And he gets bragging rights because I went 0-3 against him.
Oh.
Yeah. So it was pretty bad, but we did, I think, play the shortest football game in the history of football games.
Yeah.
Because at Greenbrier, we ran the dead tee, and our pass play was a draw.
Excellent.
In fact, our offensive line had to yell pass just to make it think they were passing. That's literally what he told.
Going through the motions, they're really were actually passing. So they pass.
Well, what's so interesting, because that's, Greenbrier Valonia was our rivalry, but we all hung out with Valonia people on the weekends in Conway because everybody would go to the movie theater there and everything. But when I talk to people from Camden, if they grew up in Fairview, they never went to Camden.
Oh, no.
They never went. They didn't go to the bank. They didn't go to the grocery store in Camden, and it's literally less than a 5-minute drive away. But Fairview had their own banks. They had their own grocery stores. They had their own everything.
Oh,
and
yeah.
They didn't intermingle at all. They hated each other that much.
Very little. Very little. It was pretty intense.
That's great. I love hearing those old stories about, high school ball like that. So those, and Camden was all just two decent size, especially the state of Arkansas, that size of schools, that big a rivalry. And then even when I moved there in 2002, and there were still people that wasn't happy about consolidation.
Oh no. Most of the time when you see, and I've seen this in all the states and every places I've been, when two schools consolidate, you usually change the colors, change the mascot. It's something brand new.
Right.
And of course, Camden was pulling some stuff to force Fairview to take them on. Obviously Camden had a lot of problems, a lot of financial issues. And so they forced Fairview to take them. And then when I found out it was going to be red and white Cardinals, it broke my heart.
I bet.
I mean, I'm over it now a little bit.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of pride in the black and gold and the Panthers. And I mean, I still know the school song and everything.
Yeah, that's great. Well, you went to UAM.
Yep.
Played football there.
Sure did. My freshman year. Okay, let's how much time do we have in this show?
We got an hour, but we'll take it longer. We don't care. You go right on ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll tell you a quick story about me going to UAM. First off, Clint knows that I'm a stickler about doing everything early. I mean, if you aren't there 15 minutes ahead of time, you're late. And I think it's a good life lesson. This is part of the story. So on the depth chart, my head coach was a guy named Quintus Cruz. And on the depth chart, everything was color coded. And I remember this particular year that my freshman class, we were color coded in green and the seniors were in purple. And so I've signed with UAM. It's late in the spring. I go by the coach's office, and behind Coach Cruz's head is the depth chart. Anybody could see it. And I went in there and I looked at the depth chart, and I am a incoming freshman, and I'm listed as first team ahead of a senior. And I'm like, yeah, they know how good I am, what a stud I am. I'm already starting as a freshman.
Yeah.
So, and I remember the guy's name was Milholland. So it's the first day of reporting in August, and I get to Bankston Hall, which was the dorm we all lived in at the time. And I'm there early. And as people are coming up, I'm like, hey, I'm Steve Mullins. I'm a freshman from Camden. I'm a lineman, all that kind of stuff. All of a sudden, there's a guy gets out of the car, and I think, well, he is either like some kind of student coach or he's a manager. He's probably a manager. And he is, now this is an offensive guard. I didn't tell you that. I was a lineman in the day. And so this guy comes walking up the drive to Bankston Hall, 5'9", maybe 175, maybe. Got glasses, horrible haircut, glasses sitting sideways. I'm like, hey, I'm Steve Mullins. And he says, hello, I'm Monty Milholland. That was the guy I was listed in front of. And all of a sudden I see him and I'm thinking, well, damn, I thought I was like being evaluated as a great player. Yeah. But then when I saw Monty, I thought, well, I get it.
It wasn't exactly a lot of competition.
Now you're being modest about your college football playing career, because you are in the UAM Hall of Fame.
Yeah, things got better.
Yeah,
I'll keep telling stories. But as we went through that freshman year, all of a sudden I discovered that Coach Cruz, before we reported sophomore, junior, senior, there were 21 people in the 3 upper classes. 21.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He had run everybody off.
Wow.
And we had 120 or 30 guys, 100 of them being dumb freshmen like we are. And so we started going. Coach Cruz was a different kind of cat. And we went 2-9 that year. And the first game of the year, we're playing UAPB, and it was me and two other true freshmen that started. The last game of the year, which we were playing against Southern Arkansas, we had 13 true freshmen starting. So as time went on, my next year, my sophomore year, seniors, we had two seniors that were when I was a sophomore. Yeah. And one of those guys was a transfer from Arkansas Tech, by the way. Anyway, so we got better and better.
Yeah.
And by my senior year in college, we won the championship. We went 9-2. One of the losses being to a Division I school, which we had no business playing. And Clint, and I appreciate Clint bringing it up, but going backwards, my freshman year, I started 11 games in the offensive line. Every day I begged Coach Cruz to move me to defense. Every day. And he'd come over there and he'd squeeze my shoulder and he'd say, now, and my nickname was Moon. Now, Moon, if you had a lot better attitude, you'd be a lot better player in the offensive line. And I'd be like, Coach, please move me to defense. Rest of that story, they moved me to defense the spring of my freshman year. The next 3 years, I make all conference, and my junior and senior year, I make all American.
Oh, wow.
And, but this is back in the day, and I played at 235 pounds. And I went back when my mama died. She had a lot of my stuff up in the attic. Now, this is my senior year in college, and it's a scouting report against Southern Arkansas. They had one offensive tackle that was 240 pounds.
Oh, wow.
The next biggest person was a tight end who was 215.
Wow.
They had starting offensive linemen between 195 and 205.
Oh, wow.
I probably should have looked like a good player.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Clint, can you imagine? I mean, nowadays, if there was a 200-pound offensive lineman,
oh man,
no, it just wouldn't happen. I think, or small guy. Well, I would always give Gabe a hard time. And by the way, Gabe's he's a little stalkerish on this podcast. I've got a restraining order against him.
Oh no!
Yeah, but no, I'd always give Gabe a hard time for being small, and he was what, 270?
Oh yeah.
And so he was a lot. We've gotten bigger through the years.
But I'm gonna tell you what happened. Like for y'all and younger people, 100 years ago, if the University of Texas decided, we're gonna sign 100 people, to make sure that TCU or SMU or Houston or some of those don't get them, they could sign 100 people. Yeah. There were no limits.
Right.
And obviously that made things horrible. And so they started changing the rules where you could only sign so many, have so many on the team on scholarship. And so those greater athletes started filtering down to the smaller school levels.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'll give you an example. My senior year in college, I was an All-American. 10 years later, I'm coaching at Southwestern Oklahoma, which is now in the conference that Tech is in. I'm coaching there, and I probably couldn't have started for that team.
Yeah.
And it's the same level. But over a period of 10 years, all those great athletes start coming down, and it just made everything better.
Yeah.
But, used to at University of Texas, they'd have 12 tailbacks on scholarship.
Right.
Just because they could afford it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm getting off tangent, but
no, we don't mind. We don't. Now you graduated UAM, which, as you said, it's the Harvard of the South.
Oh yes.
It's kind of like getting to Arkansas Tech. You got to be a genius to get in there, and then the graduate is just just write your own ticket.
Immense type of IQ, no doubt.
Yeah. I mean, I turned down MIT to come to Arkansas Tech.
I remember that.
Yeah. So what got you? Obviously graduating from UAM, you could probably wrote your ticket to anywhere. What made you decide coaching? What got you started?
There's two things. Obviously, I love the game, and I had personal success, so that feeds your feeling or ego or whatever that. And I'll be a little personal. My whole life, when I'm growing up, I never had a man in my life, ever. And so my first exposure to a male figure in my life were my coaches.
Yeah.
And I realized at an early age, whether I had any respect for the coach or not, even a person that was not a very good person could still control my feelings and my attitude.
Mhm.
And so I saw an impact that coaches had on athletes, particularly athletes that never had a father or grandfather or uncle or anything like that. And my grandmother was an only child, my mother was an only child, and I was the only child. So my tree was a trunk, my family tree. And so I realized at a very early age what coaches could have an impact on guys' lives, good or bad, good or bad.
Oh, yeah.
And so that really drove me to coaching, and I just enjoyed it. I loved the competition. I loved the Saturdays. I like watching people get better. You see people, and this is true in everybody's profession. And you were talking about being a youth pastor. I know you've seen it, but you see people that are maybe not at a very good place, and then they fight and they don't give up, and they keep thinking things are going to get better, and then all of a sudden their whole life kind of transforms.
Yeah.
And there's nothing, you can't put a value on that. And of course I'm preaching to the choir talking to you, but the ability to impact lives, whether you're youth pastor or a coach, is there. And I'm not saying that I was perfect in that. Absolutely not. Clint knows that. I've made mistakes, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of former players tell you that I'm a whatever. I'll be careful with my language.
Clint won't tell you about any of them because he still's afraid you're going to run him.
Yeah, I told him, I said, look, I'm a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I do tournaments all over the world, and I'm still scared of him.
That's right.
So no, but you're right. There's a lot of the guys that didn't have fathers in their lives, and that you're a role model to them.
Yeah. Be it good or be it bad.
Well,
Well,
and
folks, even something I've seen too, and I was just talking to my church about this the other night, or last night, but even for those kids that have a dad in their life, which I had a dad in my life, but he wasn't. I mean, my parents divorced when I was young and all that kind of stuff. I had a stepdad that me and him just didn't get along. And those coaches were, even though I had some men in my life, with the house, man, those coaches had a huge impact on me on who I am as a man and learning to be a man. And I had some, I had some influence. I had some influences at church, but man, those coaches, you're out there, you're sweating, the way you challenge them, you're challenging them to go beyond themselves, like you talked about. And when you see them go beyond themselves, you're there to celebrate that with them. And that makes a huge difference in a person's life, in a kid's life.
It can.
And so I've always compared coaching to ministry in a lot of ways. For one thing, job security ain't always that good.
That's right. That's right. All it takes is one upset person, doesn't it?
You make the wrong people mad, man, they're voting you out. And coaches make the wrong people mad, that school board's getting together, or that, council at the college. But so yeah, and I know that's one thing I love about coaches, because I think that's we got to interview our high school coach on here, one of the first interviews we did over a year ago.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Bill Buckner. And that's one of the things we were able to talk to him about was how he filled a little bit of that void for us,
Oh yeah.
And I know
it can be positive and negative.
Yeah.
Definitely can. No, because I don't know, and I'm seriously, and I'm not going to name his name because he was a good coach, but the offensive line coach before you got there, I didn't care for him very much, and I couldn't. If you hadn't came in, I can't say that I'd have played 4 years and graduated. I really can't.
Well, I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, no, that's just the truth. I mean, I'll blow your ego up, but I'm also going to speak the truth. But, out of curiosity, because you're going into coaching. You've obviously, a lot of people go the high school route. What made you go the college route?
The maturity of the athlete. and I really did, particularly when I was younger, enjoyed the recruiting aspect.
Mm.
You know, and getting to know people and getting to know their families and trying to figure out what makes people tick, what motivates people. And once again, made as many mistakes as I did successes. But I enjoyed going into new places. I don't know. I just like dealing with a more mature athlete. And I never coached high school.
Okay.
Yeah, I became a GA, and then from a GA, I got a full-time job and never looked back from 1980 until 2013.
What are some of the places you coached?
Well, I GA'd at University of Central Arkansas.
Mm.
And then from there, went down to Lamar University in Beaumont, Texas, and was down there for 4 years. And that's where I met my wife, got married in Texas. It was a funny, I'm getting off track a little bit. Once again, you guys just tell me to shut up. But when I moved down to Beaumont, I have a Monte Carlo at the time.
Yeah.
Everything I owned in the world was in that Monte Carlo. Everything. So I moved to Texas. I get married. We get fired. Rightfully so. We should have been fired. And so my next job is in southwestern Oklahoma in Weatherford, Texas. I rent the biggest U-Haul you could rent at that time. Still had to leave stuff behind. It's just amazing. In 4 years, not only did I pick up a wife, but I pick up more stuff than I ever knew I'd own in my life.
Yeah.
Anyway, go up to Weatherford, Oklahoma, and work for a man named Paul Sharp, who has since passed away. Love Paul and his family. And then from there, went to Northwest Missouri, and I worked for a man named Bud Elliott, who I picked up a lot of things. I only worked for him for 2 years, and he never played football. He went to a high school that didn't have football and ran track in college. But I thought he was a great motivator and a very positive person. Mm-hmm. And Bud has passed away too, I'm sorry to say. But we enjoyed our time at Northwest Missouri. We were 2-9 our first year and 9-2 our second year. Wow. And we were running the wishbone, and it just a lot of great memories up in Maryville. And then from in Northwest Missouri, I'll get off on a tangent on that one. Years later, I get a chance to interview for the head job at Northwest Missouri. And to this day, I still think it was my best interview ever. And then there was a guy that they hired. And next thing I know, they're calling me and saying, we're going to hire a guy named Mel Churchman, which, you know, guys that don't know anything about Division II football, none of this means anything to you. And I'm like, well, who is Mel Churchman? Why is he a better coach than me? Well, Mel goes up to Northwest Missouri, and he's won like 7 national championships and played for 3 or 4 more. And I'm thinking, well, they probably did make a good choice on that. Anyway, after Northwest Missouri, then I go to Northwestern Louisiana, and I was there for either 7.5 or 8.5 years. I don't remember now, but it's in Natchitoches, Louisiana, just about an hour south of Shreveport, and really a unique place. It's the oldest city in the Louisiana Purchase. You know, it's older than New Orleans and everything. And so there's a lot of history there. There's parts of the city that are very beautiful, the river and all this stuff. But anyway.
It is a beautiful little place.
Yeah, you've been there?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Good. Yep.
A friend of mine,
offensive coordinator the entire time there, or were you offensive line coach?
No, I came there. I was the linebacker coach when I first got there. And then after that, the year later, the offensive line coach changed professions. And Coach Goodwin, who was the head coach, asked me to be the offensive line coach. And so then I started coaching the offensive line. And then years later, the offensive coordinator left. And then that's when I became the offensive coordinator.
Now that's Ed Orgeron's alma mater.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And once again, y'all tell me to shut up. But I'm coaching at Northwestern. Next thing I know, this guy named Ed Orgeron shows up. And Babe is what he goes by.
Yeah.
And so he gets there, and he had been at this time like at Miami and all these other places. And I'm like, what's this dude doing here? Yeah. And he's had some personal issues and personal demons. And so they had just about got him at that point. And he came back to Northwestern as a GA, and he was there for a month or maybe 2 months, and then he was gone again.
Yeah.
But I mean, everything that you've seen on television, that's just, I mean, there's no false pretenses.
Who he is. Yeah.
That's who he is.
Passionate guy.
And back in those days, that was long before all this Red Bull stuff.
Yeah.
But you know, I read about him, you know, drinking 12 Red Bulls during the day. And
Yeah.
I'm thinking, I don't doubt it. Don't doubt it at all. He was a different cat, but he was a great coach. And, you know, people always talk about his recruiting. You could definitely be around him for 15 minutes and know that this guy knows how to recruit. I mean, it was impressive. But anyway, then
from Natchitoches?
do what?
You miss the food from Natchitoches?
Dang straight I do. Now, my wife is a great Louisiana cook, and her father was a Methodist minister. And for a point when her mother and father were still married, they moved around a lot in Louisiana. And she was actually adopted out of a home in New Orleans. And her dad and her mom were living in Ruston at the time. And then as things have gone, and her dad has since passed away, but you know, he's lived in Belle Chase and Bastrop and Mandeville and I've lived a lot. You know, Methodist ministers move around a lot.
They move their ministers. They don't get a chance to get voted out. They just
No, they don't.
they're like, all right, you're there for 3 years. They move you on. That way they get tired of someone else.
Oh, yeah. And I grew up a Baptist
Yeah.
in Camden, and Dr. Maddox was the preacher at the time.
First Baptist.
Yeah, at the First Baptist Church. And I thought he'd been there like for 50 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's all that I knew. And the next thing I marry into a Methodist family, and I'm finding, you know, every 2 years we're going to change places. I'm like, really?
It's just a different style of leadership. It works for them. It's worked for years for them. So,
oh yeah.
But it's just, but that is a byproduct is you bounce around, you know.
I can vouch though. Miss Liz is a wonderful cook.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you saying
I mean, it is. I mean, because he used to have the offensive line over like at least once a year. She'd make gumbo or something along those lines, and it was always just.
Oh, it is good, and
yeah.
Anytime that we go down to Louisiana, there's certain places that we go and buy food to cook. You know, that we load up in a freezer and bring back, and she knows what she's doing with that.
Yeah, because I about ripped a hole in your trampoline on one of those. You're like, no more 300-pounders on the trampoline. Get off, Clint. Get off the trampoline.
Pretty funny.
I did feel the grass when I hit.
So,
probably a good call.
Well, probably because you're just a great athlete.
That's something like that.
Yeah, it takes a great athlete to push a trampoline all the way down to the ground. Those little 150-pounders, they can't do that.
No, they can't do that. Only us biggins.
So from Northwestern,
then to Arkansas Tech.
Move up to Arkansas Tech. Now, I understand that was a little different of a transition, wasn't it? I mean, you didn't. It wasn't a regular.
It was an odd time. I didn't realize how odd of a time it was. I mean, I was there. I played a year under Hollingsworth. It's the summer, and then somehow, you know, back then there wasn't social media.
That's right.
So you start hearing whispers in the dorm, like Hollingsworth has stepped down, and blah blah blah, and we didn't know who was going. And it was an odd time. How was that from your end?
Oh, it was unbelievable. And I actually took the job on July 2nd. Won't ever forget that. And excuse my dogs, they're barking at somebody.
Oh, mine were just barking earlier. Don't feel bad.
Okay, thank you. Anyway, so basically came in with somebody else's coaching staff and somebody else's players. And I don't know if you remember, but at the end of the day, Racono showed up.
Right.
And so he was the only guy out of everything that I brought in. And so, you know, I had a lot of impressions, and I was told a lot of things about where we were as a team. And I don't know if you remember any of those early days when I showed up, but I found out quickly that I was misled about our conditioning, and I was misled about our strength. And I'll never forget. And of course, there's a million ways to skin a cat. And I was told about this conditioning that we were going to do. And once again, I don't know if you remember this, but this is like my first practice, and we're running those 110s.
Yeah.
And they're divided up by size, and everybody's got a time that they got to make. And all I've been hearing about for a month from the other coaching staff was about these 110s. So we get out there and run, and you probably don't remember any of this. We start.
I had knee surgery, so I didn't participate.
Okay. So we start running the 110s, and I'm like, wait a minute, you're telling me this is the conditioning? I stopped the drill. We're not even halfway through. We've got guys falling out. We got guys not even close to making their times. And I've been told for a solid month what great condition we're in. What great condition we're in. Anyway, that was my first sense of where we were.
Yeah, I remember opening the Courier, the local paper in Russellville, and reading a quote from new head coach Steve Mullins says, "The condition of the offensive line is terrible."
It was true.
No, you didn't lie. I mean, because I was there, and I can vouch. We were not, because under the previous coaching staff, you didn't really, because they would get you in shape, so we'd all show up out of shape, and then we realized real quick, because I was texting Gabe earlier, and he was like, ask him what his true thought. He goes, see if you can get him to answer what his thoughts were when he first got there, which you pretty much just did. I've been duped.
Well, and I'm gonna tell you nothing. I can say this because I love him as much as I love you. I'd kiss him on the face too. You mentioned him earlier. Travis, this guy, Jumbo Cawthon.
Oh, I know Jumbo, yeah.
You know Jumbo? Okay. Once again, for a solid month, I've been told that he is an absolute freaking stud. Yeah. I mean, he is the man. Yeah. So one of the things that we do to teach discipline and conditioning at the beginning of practice, we have these things called tires. And basically it's running agility drills through 3 tires. You've got 10 rows. Each row's got 3 tires in it. So basically all you're doing is running around 3 tires and various, right hand, left foot, right foot, backward, forward, bear crawl, just a lot of different, figure 8. And all you got to do, if everybody will just finish the drill. Now, the distance from one tire going all the way around, coming all the way back is 5 yards. You got to remember that. It's 5 yards. And all you got to do is finish the drill, and nobody has to come back. But if one guy doesn't finish the drill, everybody's got to come back. Anyway, saying all that, we go through, and this is back in the hard days when there was a true two-a-days and all that. The entire preseason two-a-day practice, Jumbo never made it out of tires. He never made it out of tires. He was already spent, gone. And I'm thinking, okay, this is my stud. Anyway, long story short, just like we talked about earlier, Jumbo didn't quit. And he kept fighting and fighting and fighting. He turns out to be a great, all-American, all-conference type player.
Well, and we've had Jumbo on here when we do during college football season, we do a pick 'em.
Okay.
We had him on Greenbrier Valonia week.
And then we'd known him when, in high school, we always, of course, playing against him and stuff. We kind of knew who Jumbo was. I didn't know him personally real well, but you're talking about a pretty athletic big man.
Oh, yeah, he had great feet.
You're talking about a guy
no endurance.
In softball tournaments that plays the outfield.
Oh my gosh, how about that?
Yeah.
Well, and I'm gonna tell you, initially he struggled, but as far as heart and toughness, I mean, he pretty tough character.
Made it out, but yeah.
Oh yeah, I was very proud of him.
So you got there, you were disappointed in where they were at, because you were told one thing or whatever. Sort of encapsulate the disappointment when you met your third string center.
Well, I could tell already he was the sexiest guy on the football team.
Thank you.
There was no doubt about that.
He was.
I think he had on a little half T-shirt and Speedos. I remember what he had on when I first met him.
That's his normal attire around the
What I
house.
wear.
But one of my favorite memories of all these beautiful offensive linemen, Travis, we used to do gassers for conditioning. And it was hard. Yeah, I fully admit that. And so those guys would get out there and start doing it, and they would start stripping. You know, and this is the point in college careers where, you know, there's no such thing as a jock strap anymore.
Yeah.
You know, it's just all this tight stuff that they wear. Looks like the spandex that the volleyball girls wear.
Girdle things. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a horrible comparison. But anyway,
Terrible.
but all of a sudden, I mean, they're stripped down. They're running back and forth. It's 100 degrees, and there is angles of fat flying in different directions that I never thought I could see fat fly. Now, effort was there. Oh yeah, effort was there. They're trying to make their times, you know. And the whole thing is, and we go all the way back to what we talked about earlier, expectations for people.
Yeah.
And even for me nowadays, you can always go further than you think you can go. You know, I do. I'm a retired guy, and I still exercise and all that. And you know, don't think that there's days like right now, what we're going through over the last 10 days. It's changed my schedule. You know, used to I was out there between 10:30 and 1 doing all my stuff. But you know, I got to be smart about things. But you still like to challenge yourself a little bit.
Yeah. And
challenge other people as a coach. And once again, to see where people were back in August of 97 and where they were in August of 99, it just does, it does something for a coach's heart. It does.
And to bring that up, okay, 99 was a special year for y'all.
Oh yeah.
And I came to a couple of those.
Was
games.
it now?
Yeah.
I see you. Go
Hey,
ahead.
there's something shiny coming from Clint's screen over there. I don't what is that? That's something.
That is a 1999 Gulf South Conference Championship ring right there.
Beyond special.
That's right.
It was special. And, you know, and you talk about seeing people make the jump. When you first got there, I will say this about myself, and I've worked hard on my self-deprecating humor and try to see myself in a more positive light. But when you first got there, I was a joke. I mean, I really was. I wasn't in shape. I
weren't the only one, though.
No, I wasn't the only one. I wasn't the only one because I remember 50 bleacher day, and I get up to the top of bleachers. We're around number 20, and I'm like, I'm just going to jump off this thing. maybe they'll think I fell. But that being said, I went to work over the summer and went from joke to at least, you know, respectability. The problem with me was, and just being just downright honest, is number one, I never was consistent. I just never was. I mean, I would look great for 2 plays, and then I'd step the ball over Shane Sapwell's head on the third play. It would happen.
It would happen.
It happened, but I never was able to take that step from respectful to where you could count on me during a game when it was on the line. And I understand that, but I had my place there, and I enjoyed my time there. And it was a big thing for me to go, like you said, from where I was to where I ended.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the guy that graduated with you wasn't the same guy that started with you.
Oh, no, not all.
Not even the same. I mean, the growth in my skills from day one was just, it was night and day.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
Well, what's impressive is to hear you talk about when Clint talking about for him personally, and you know, and like you said, he wasn't the only one that was, you know, not where they needed to be there in 97 when you got there. But for 2 years later, for y'all to be, it was SAU, y'all beating that final game, right?
Yep.
For y'all to beat them, and they were a good team.
They're an excellent team.
For y'all to beat them and win that Gulf South Conference championship, man.
Oh, it was a big deal. I'm telling you, it was overtime. And when Charlie Larimore fell on that fumble, where I was at watching, I was like, I think that's a fumble. But I couldn't see. You know, there were people. In fact, the referee was running around, and he was kind of in my side of vision because it was going towards their bench. towards their sideline. And so I'm trying to see, and then next thing you know, just everything erupts. It was a wonderful thing. And, you know, the thing that was so special about that team, and any coach will tell you this about any championship team, the one trait every single time is people being unselfish. And I would say this, even if Clint wasn't on here, but when you understand what your role is and you go out there with a good attitude and you go out there with good effort every day, and we had some of our better players were very unselfish. You know, they went out there and busted their butt every day. You know, when you have your best players working real hard and that are hungry, and everybody just being unselfish. You know, not everybody, no matter what parents think, you can't have 75 starters.
That's right.
It just doesn't work that way. It just doesn't work that way. And when you are called on, you know, you got to step up, you got to show something. But, you know, there's a reason that guys are first team, second team, third team. There just is. And I'm being a little whatever now, but when I hear about, oh, you know, the coach is not playing his best players. Are you kidding me? So he's going to play his worst players where he can lose and lose his job. And so, you know, as he's supporting his wife and kids, he loses his livelihood to feed his family.
Yeah.
I mean, think about how stupid that statement is.
That's
Well,
right.
he doesn't play his best players. Really? Are you in practice every day?
Yeah.
You know what that guy did over the cafeteria yesterday?
Yeah.
You know, do you know how he was disrespectful in class? You know, I don't know. I'm off on a tangent, but there's so many things to go into.
Oh, you're 100% right. Now, like you said, that 99 group was a special group. And even now when we get together, you know, me and you talked on the phone the other day, I called you and we talked for about 20 minutes and it felt like 2 minutes.
Oh yeah.
It just, whenever any of us get together, there's a chemistry there that's just, I don't know how to describe it. It's just, we pick up.
Well, y'all, once again, going back to 97, what you survived between 97 and 99 makes you pretty special, and it makes you pretty tough. And you think about how many people were there in 97 and how many of those same people were there in 99. You know, that number dropped.
Yeah.
You know, there was a lot of people that weren't tough enough to make it through there. But
at what point during 99 did you think, okay, I've got something, I may have something here?
I thought when we were going through two-a-days, once again, this is the olden days, not like it is now. And there's a certain amount of toughness that you've got to have and determination. And it just seemed like people were not, there wasn't anybody giving up. There wasn't any quit. You know, it was not, and we've talked about this before, and Clint's heard this, and all my players have heard this their entire lives. But when you have something bad happen, you got two choices. You can hang your head and feel sorry for yourself, or you can fight through it.
Yeah.
Those are your only two choices. That's it. When something bad happens, you can give into it or you can fight through it. That's it.
Yeah.
And so it just felt like, you know, with the heat and the gassers and, you know, people getting banged up and all that, nobody was openly bitching. You know, you know, now in the locker room, that's a different story. And that's the way it should be.
It was probably me.
Yeah, probably. You're in the dorm or in somebody's apartment. But when you're out there on the field and it's just like, okay, you SOB, yeah, I can handle this. Go ahead. What do you want me to do now? I can do this. And so we had a little bit of that toughness attitude that, you know, you want fighters. You don't want people that are going to spit out the bit when things get a little hot or whatever. Yeah. Now, we all have our limits. I get that. And everybody's going to have a bad day. Everybody. But when you have the bad day, what are you going to choose to do at the next day?
Yeah.
You know?
No, and I remember you would always, you would switch it around. Everybody would give speeches before.
Oh, yeah.
Practice and all that. And you'd come up with tidbits.
Thought for the day.
Yeah. Thought for the day. I remember I did it during the spring of my senior year. And I remember you did one. And I remember you saying Reggie Jackson and Del Murphy are the two names that stick out on my list. But you listed like 5 or 6 names, and all of them Hall of Famers. You're like, what do these guys have in common? And you kept trying to get it. They were the career leaders in strikeouts, is what it was. That's
right.
But that's not what anybody remembers about these guys. Reggie Jackson, we remember Mr. October.
Yeah,
the power lesson was when you hit that adversity, not giving up. Now we did, it wasn't without adversity that we won that title. Not even close. You probably remember the Delta State game.
Oh my gosh.
Probably have nightmares about it. Chris Taylor, speaking of unselfish, starting quarterback the year before for Atkins, a dirty Red Devil.
That's right.
Reason I don't have a conference championship title to my name in high school.
Oh no.
I'm not bitter though. But he had moved from quarterback to fullback because you had a need there.
Yep.
So he'd moved, and it was
He
obvious.
played a little bit of tight end too.
Yep. Just he was just unselfish, punted. He was there to do what we needed him to do.
Yep.
He had just before the game started having back spasms. Danny Albright, starting right tackle, gets a concussion like first quarter. You're having to play a true freshman. George Harp, starting quarterback from, was it San Diego State or San Jose?
He was from California somewhere.
Yeah, I think it was San Jose State. He transferred in, tears every ligament in his knee
on a trick play that I thought was a wonderful trick play. And I'll be dadgum, and George, and he was a great guy too, and a great quarterback. But go ahead, yeah. Then he tears up his knee.
Tears up his knee, and that. So you've got 3 offensive starters out early in the game, and it. What was your thoughts after that during that game? Just out of curiosity. At one point, you called me over, and I'm like, "What's he want from me?" I guess you wanted me to get some snaps of Savoy to calm him down, but I was just like, he's calling me over. I thought
I was trying to do anything, get Shane to calm down a little bit.
Maybe Clint will say something dumb, make him laugh, calm him down.
There you go. But it was a struggle after we lost George. And of course, we're starting to think about, what in the heck are we going to do at quarterback? And then that's when Josh Price stepped up and obviously had a great year filling in for George. But George, I was very lucky at Tech. I had a string of a lot of great quarterbacks, really did. And it's gone the other way. I can remember one year where we lost everybody, and we had a guy named Mark Eversman, who was a quarterback in high school, but he was like a kicker. And that's really why we recruited him as a kicker from Little Rock Catholic. And we ended up having to start a kicker at quarterback all year. And we still won 5 games with Mark at quarterback. But anyway, we had a string of a lot of good quarterbacks, and George Harp was going to be one of those.
Yeah,
really was. He had some talent, but then when he tore up his knee, I don't know. That's still heartbreaking. But then that gave Josh Price his opportunity, and obviously you see what he did through his career too.
No, and that's just it. It's eventually, and when you play college football, you're eventually going to get your opportunity is going to come.
Absolutely.
And it's whether you grab a hold of and you take the opportunity by the horns, that's up to you. And Josh definitely did that. And so that's crazy thing. And plus, at some point, Travis Horn was a starting halfback, and he ended up with a plate in his foot, wasn't it?
Yep.
So
he was a great unselfish player too.
So literally, you lost your starting quarterback and your starting running back, and still won the Gulf South Conference.
I know. Because we had a bunch of guys with heart. I was proud of them.
Thanks to your third string center. I'm going to take all I said it's thanks to your third string center.
No doubt. Absolutely.
A funny story about that year, and you won't remember this because it's actually kind of hilarious. And I think I told this story with Jumbo on here. Okay. There was one, because we would always do a walkthrough before the games.
Yep.
You'd have the offensive line out there, and I overslept. I did. I overslept. I missed it. I've come running to your office in a panic because I just want to apologize to you. I'm like, he's not going to let me dress. I'm going to be in so much trouble. And it became obvious really quick you didn't notice I wasn't there. I mean, I owned up to it, and you're like, "Oh, just don't let it happen again." I'm like, "Okay, no problem, coach." I was so scared.
I'm afraid that sounds very true.
Yeah, no. Another really funny story about how you know, and there's a lot of respect that I have towards you, and I think you know that. But also,
I do.
with a healthy respect comes a healthy fear, especially back then. There was one day you taking us over to the whole building. We were going to get to work out in the pool. I cannot swim. I can doggy paddle at best. We're at the deep end, and I'm a senior, and so you have the whistle in your hands. And you said, "First group, down and back, ready," and you blow the whistle, and I just jump in the water.
Oh no!
I doggy paddle for my life. I make the lap, but it had to be the world's slowest lap in a pool ever. So I'm not jumping in if he's blowing the whistle.
Well, I appreciate you overcoming that fear.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well,
Those,
Coach, so now in 2000, was it 2013 you retired?
Yeah, out of the football part, and then became AD only.
Okay. How long were you AD?
I took over in 2003. I did both head football coach and AD for 10 years, which was plenty long enough. It's tough deal.
Work, yeah.
Yeah, particularly at the collegiate level. Anyway, then in 2013 became AD only from 2013 through 2019. You know, I got out at a good time from the standpoint of the pandemic started and all that, and not speaking negatively, but the enrollment has really gone down at the previous school. And, you know, when people don't start showing up school, that kind of affects your budget too.
Yeah.
So it's tough. And I know that y'all keep up, and you've seen what's happening down at Henderson and the stuff that they're going through trying to survive. And hold on, I got something on my screen. I don't know if it's showing up on y'all. Anyway, I don't know, when I first was, I'm trying to choose my words carefully, when I was first positioned into retirement, that maybe that's the best way to put it. I was pretty whatever, because I have no hobbies, none, zero.
Yeah.
It's just football and family, and that's it. And so I thought it was going to be a hard adjustment, but after 2 or 3 months, it's probably about the best thing ever happened to me. It really is.
Well, now you did some interesting things out there. I mean, because you were athletic director when Tech transitioned from GSC to the GAC.
Oh yeah, and we were the lead group in that. Yeah, it was a transition in the Gulf South. We were always treated like second-class citizens. Everything, all the power lied east of the Mississippi. And when we would have our meetings, and I'm talking about at the administrative level, presidential level, Arkansas was treated like the redheaded stepchild. And so the Oklahoma schools were in the Lone Star with the Texas schools, and they kind of felt the same way. And so, you know, geographically, financially, it just made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And so we actually started forming that conference out at Lake Point, which is that was a conference center that Arkansas Tech owned at the time. They've since had to sell it because of financial reasons, but it was a pretty nice place. And that's where we actually started forming the conference, was on basically in Russellville. And it's been a blessing from the standpoint, very, you know, competitive. And as you talk about AD, I was, I guess, AD in that conference for, I'm trying to get this right, I'll be close, for 8 years. And 7 of those years, we won the all sports trophy. And the other year that we didn't win, Harding won, and we finished second to them. So I'm very proud of what we built as an athletic department and how successful we were. Anyway, and you know, there's been, and it needs to happen, it needs to circle back around to football now, but there's been some really good upgrades over the course of time while I was the AD there. And anyway, there's more upgrades that need to happen now, you know, because you want to stay competitive.
Oh, for sure.
And I'm not being ugly, but Clint, when you played, there's a heck of a lot of difference between North Alabama and Southwestern Oklahoma.
There definitely is.
There's a heck of a lot of difference between Valdosta State and East Central University. And I'm sorry, and I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings, but the Gulf South was a pretty rough, rocky conference. I mean, if you made it through, you had to be tough.
Yeah.
Because they're, Valdosta's winning national championships, North Alabama's winning national championships, West Georgia, since we've left, won national champion. And, it's just a really good. Delta State's always got talent. They're the only Division II school in the whole state of Mississippi.
I don't know about their head coach though.
Oh, their head coach now sucks.
Yeah. Terrible.
Travis, he's a Tech alumni former.
Todd Cooley.
Former coach.
He's had his hands on my bottom, so I can talk junk about it.
I'm familiar with Todd. Yeah.
So, now you've served on the Division II playoff committee too, haven't you?
Yeah, I was actually president of Division II at one point.
Okay. Now, how are those conversations? Do they get cantankerous at times? Where Absolutely. And you may not believe this, but I am a strong-willed person. I've never noticed.
And there were a lot of things that I thought were, I guess I can say different words now that I'm retired, but they were just stupid. And this attitude permeated over the year, particularly as you talk about getting into the playoffs. And they would talk about the quality of the loss, where whatever, Travis and I play head to head, I beat Travis.
Yeah.
Later, I get beat by Clint. And they're saying Travis needs to go in there because my loss to Clint was not a very quality loss.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, are you, and once again, I'm trying to watch my language. Clint knows how to talk. Are you crazy?
Yeah.
That I beat somebody head to head and they're going to get in the playoffs and I'm not?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Anyway, this sounds egotistical, but I kind of changed the whole narrative of that. And I would be, let's talk about quality of wins.
Mm.
Let's don't worry about losses. Let's talk about quality of wins.
Yeah.
There's good wins, but all they want to talk about was good losses and bad losses.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Because that happened. I mean, you were a victim of that.
Yes, twice.
2
Twice
years
I
after
was.
I graduated. 2 years I graduated, y'all beat UCA, and they said, "Well, UCA's loss was better."
Yeah, they had higher quality. Don't think that wasn't stuck in my craw when I became president of this thing.
No, I could imagine you were very
Or
spicy.
chairman, I should say, chairman of Division II is
Yeah.
really the proper term. But
Well,
oh yeah. There were a lot of things that changed under my leadership. Now, I'm not there anymore. It's probably all changed back. I don't know.
It's not your dog and pony show anymore. Like, you can do what you want. I don't care.
That's right.
Well, Coach, speaking of change, you talked about the change in college sports when you were younger, when Texas would have all the, athletes.
Oh yeah.
Well, right now we're probably seeing, when we look back in history, some things that are going to impact college sports and football more than
No doubt.
anything probably in the history of the sport. Maybe we'll see. History will kind of bear that out.
Yep.
What do you think about all the stuff with the, NIL, transfer portal stuff? What's your opinion on what it's going to do to college sports?
It's going to ruin it. It's it's 5 letters, MONEY,
Mm-hmm.
and that's all that counts. Absolutely nothing else matters. Conferences, allegiances, loyalty, all those kind of things. The only thing that matters is money. That's it. And people, you can crave the old days all you want. It's not coming back. It's not coming back. And I will tell you this, I still have lots and lots and lots of friends that are coaches. And I'm talking about all levels, Division II, 1AA, Power 5, to a man. Every single coach I've talked to, there's not one man that's happy.
Yeah.
There's not one man that's happy. And I won't name a name. And Clint, I don't want you to name because you may know who it is.
Okay.
One of the guys I'm really close to, last year he made $750,000. a year. And he is absolutely miserable. Absolutely miserable. One of my former coaches. And then I've got another former coach that made over $500,000 last year. Absolutely miserable. Now, one thing that just happened that gave them a little bit of relief is they're going to come in with a time frame on the portal. You know, the portal is basically turned into a 24/7 thing.
Yeah.
Coaches have, you know, particularly at the Power Five and the other five too, they have a coach assigned to the portal every day of their life.
Mm.
That's all they do. They just work the portal. Does this guy fit? You know, is he good enough to play at our level? And so and I don't know the exact rule, but now there's a cutoff date about when you know, this is the last day you can join the portal. And so at least there's a stopping point.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to keep looking at 2:00 in the morning because Travis decided that he wanted to join the portal. And the next day the head coach is like, what the heck are you doing? You know, so whatever, Louisiana State's already talked to Travis. Why aren't we talking to Travis? And it's just, it never stops. And of course the NIL stuff, which I don't have an issue with the players with the free enterprise system, but I don't know if it's necessarily free enterprise.
Yeah.
But what has happened is the NCAA has been handed their ASS in lawsuits.
Mm-hmm.
And they're in a position where they can't win anything. And so in turn, they just say, we give up. That's what you want the rule to be. Just get after it. So you went from being extremely constrictive, you know, where you're going to lose your eligibility if you sign an autograph for $10, to you do whatever you want to do. I mean, it really has done a more, a 720, you know, it's gone 180, 180, 180, you know, it just keep going.
Yeah.
And, you know, and people talk about the wild, wild west, and it truly is. It truly is. And you see about these high school guys. Well, a year ago, the number one rated quarterback in the state of Texas high school commits to Ohio State. Well, he doesn't even play his senior year in high school because he wants to go ahead and get his NIL money. And in the state of Texas, you can't, at the collegiate, I mean, at the scholastic level, you can't earn money that way. And so he just skips his senior year, goes up there. And of course, he's since transferred back to the University of Texas, but
Never. Yeah.
yeah, but you know, it's MONEY. And I'm sorry.
Now in the state of Louisiana, a high school player can get NIL deals.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And the high schools are going to be forced to change it.
Yeah.
They're going to be they don't have any
States will
choice.
change that. Yeah.
You think I got any back pay coming from Arkansas Tech from all them 77 jerseys you moved?
Absolutely. If I went back and figured, it'd probably be close to $500,000, I think.
You're right.
Yeah.
It was the number one bestseller in the bookstore.
It was.
Thanks to your family.
Breath on that, Clint.
Sue's a very caring woman.
No doubt. No doubt.
Yeah, that's Sue and Tom probably bought them all. But yeah, I agree with you, Coach. I think it's there's going to have to be some regulations on it. There's just going to have to be. You know, and I've said on here before, I think this super conference thing that's happening is the first step. The next step will be, once they do that, the NCAA will be no more, just like the NIAIA used to be. The NCAA will be no more. They'll come up with a new governing body for those super conferences, and they'll come up with some regulations. I think that's going to be one of the things that'll draw them into the super conference.
Oh, I agree with you.
Come up with some regulations on transfers, and you know, so it's not, because like you said, the coaches can't be happy with it.
Well, no, you are absolutely cannot manage your roster now.
Yeah,
you can be sitting in the running back room thinking, you know, we're going to be pretty good next year. 24 hours later, you're thinking, what are we going to do? We don't have any running backs left.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not. And I truly am sounding like an old guy on this. If you know that you can transfer when the coach calls you out, like, you know, Travis, Clint, Y'all are fat and y'all not doing anything to get in shape. Well, that hurts my feelings. You hurt my feelings. You call me fat.
Yeah.
I'm going to transfer.
Yeah.
And that goes on now.
Yeah.
No, it does. It does.
Well, and the thing is, all it takes is a kid getting mad for a couple of days.
Oh, yeah.
And all of a sudden they're in the transfer portal. And I'll be honest with you, if I was a head coach and they got mad over something like that, and they all of a sudden run off and join the transfer portal, c'est la vie, buddy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Especially nowadays, because I'll go get someone else.
Oh, you have to. Yeah, you better be working that portal too.
Yeah. And I'll go get someone else that's hungry, that's coming from a smaller school, that wants your spot because they want to compete for a championship. And so if you're going to be a whiny baby about it, go on.
Well, and the other thing that's happening, and once again, you see it at every level as it comes down, all the way. It's happening in Division II right now as we speak. But all of a sudden, you're a sophomore and you're an all-conference type player at Division II. Chances are you're not going to be there the next year.
Yeah, no.
You know, coach has gone out. He's recruited you. You've loved the school. You know, all those things. And you've got your first couple of years in and everything's going great. But then all of a sudden you're at Arkansas Tech and Arkansas State's calling you.
Yeah.
So, you know, hey, we really got a need at wide receiver.
I think
this year at UCA, they had an outstanding wide receiver. Now he's at Louisville. He's their number one receiver coming out of spring ball at Louisville.
Yeah.
And you know, a dominant player for them, a difference maker.
Mm.
And now he's gone.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost like you want a bunch of above average players. You don't want any great players because you're not going to have them.
Yeah.
Unless you're at the top of the food chain.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And I think that's even going to hit harder in basketball.
No, because we actually had this conversation, because it used to be you'd think it was a matter of time before a Butler, a Davidson, a school like that won the NCAA title. Now you're not going to keep a Steph Curry at Davidson.
No.
Play for Davidson for a year or two, then he's going to go to Duke.
Yeah, Duke or Kansas, North Carolina. Yeah.
It's not the same anymore.
And then you have the NIL stuff. You know, it's not only the prestige of a school that's really good in one sport, but all of a sudden, you know, my NIL deal, I can't talk, my NIL deal at Arkansas State, I'm only getting $2,000 a month. And all of a sudden at, let's say, South Alabama, you know what, Clint, you come down here, you're going to get $4,000 a month.
Yeah.
Well, that's not a decision. I'm gone.
Yeah.
I'm gone. I'm going to the highest bidder.
Mm-hmm.
And I can turn this around. And I'm talking about in the Division II world. And I don't know how much y'all have talked about. Division II, you've got 36 full scholarships. That's it. But you can divide them any way you want to. Travis can be on $1, Clint can be on $10,000, and Steve can be on 50 cents.
Mm-hmm.
So, but as long as that total ends up being at 36.
Mm-hmm.
So as you are recruiting in the Division II world, and I'm talking to that great player at Greenbrier, and I offer him a $2,000 scholarship. Well, then Henderson comes in and says, you know what, I'm going to give you a $3,000 scholarship. And then Monticello comes in and says, I'm going to give you a $4,000 scholarship. And I don't care how the kid's visit went and how much he loves the school. And this is the best spot. This is the best coaching staff. This is the best facilities. I'm going to tell you, he's going to go to the highest bidder.
Yeah.
I don't care. He's going to the highest bidder because it's about MONEY.
Mm-hmm.
And so now as you're dealing with this NIL stuff, I mean, if you're not shopping, then there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
If you're a good player.
Yeah.
But I'm also, you know, the flip side of that is that it does not get enough publicity. And I don't care what level it is, guys that say, you know what, I'm going to the portal. And the coach says, don't let the door hit you.
Mm.
And just say they're a Division II player and they're on $4,000 scholarship. And then they start looking around, guess what? Nobody wanted you.
Yeah.
And now you got nothing.
Yeah.
No, I was telling Travis, if I'd have went in the portal, I would have still been there.
I hear you, brother.
Street Center from Arkansas Tech still in the portal.
We got a guy's been in there since 1998. Nobody will.
That's
He
right.
still got a semester left. He still got a semester left.
Yeah, Coach, I totally agree with you. It's usually I'm the one with the old man takes on here. Okay, I still like the old bowl system and
Oh yeah.
I like the original BCS because at least the number 1 and 2. But other than that, I don't want to play off in Division 1. I know it works well for Division 2 and everything, but I'm just I'm a tradition guy,
And I'm gonna preach a little bit more too. And I can say this, in the Division 2 world, if you're going to win the national championship, you've got to play at least 15 games.
Yeah.
With 36 scholarships.
Yeah.
And so now they start talking about Division 1 play. Oh, we can't add all those games.
Yeah.
They're playing 13 games with 85 scholarship players.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you can play 15 or 16 games with 36 players. That's okay. That's okay, Division 2. You just do the best you can. And, if you, lose 25 players to injury, so, just part of the game.
How hard is that math at Division 2? To figure out like, okay, I've got 36 scholarships. This guy's my starting left tackle. I'm going to put him on a half. My starting quarterback, he needs to be on a full ride. How hard is that process for you guys?
It is a hard process. But at the end of the day, what you try to do, what we tried to do was to package things, whatever. Clint, he's a full Pell guy. And so we'll make up the difference between his Pell Grant and his athletic scholarship where it doesn't cost him anything to go to school.
Yeah.
And where Travis is he made a 35 on his ACT. He's got everything taken care of except for making up $1,000 worth of books or something. And so we're going to give him $1,000. Then with your academic money, you're on full scholarship. And so at Division 2, it's a lot of putting the pieces together. And then if you're some of those cheating private schools, Travis, as we talk about your profession, and you get all these Deacon scholarships. And
I went to Washington, so
yeah. All of a sudden, if you get this Deacon scholarship, because one time you drove by the Baptist church and win Arkansas, you get the Deacon scholarship.
Yeah.
So, it's all about putting things together.
I got in school on one of those scholarships, so that you need to be careful.
At the end of the day, when people have backgrounds or talent that can get their school paid for, and of course now you got a little bit of lottery money that can contribute. It's expensive as college is nowadays. You just got to put a lot of stuff together and make it work.
Yeah, anything a kid can do without having $100,000 of student loans to pay back when they get out, because that's
no doubt.
That's too much of a burden to put on somebody
It is. You graduate and whatever you get, state of Arkansas right now, you get a $40,000 teaching job.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, for sure. Well, Coach, man, anything else you want to say about Clint and just how bad he really was as a football player?
Oh, he was a horrible football player.
I was.
But he was a great guy.
He was entertaining as all get out there, wasn't he?
Well, and the other thing is, and Clint had one or two episodes where he would get upset, rightfully so. We all do. But at the end of the day, as we talk about people that are unselfish and they know what their role is, those are the kind of people you win championships with. It's just that simple. And I would say this, if we were not on here about Clint, just knowing your role and being unselfish and coming out there and working hard with a good attitude. If you give your best every day, that's it.
Yeah.
I can't grow hair on my head. There's some things you can and can't do.
Yeah.
And whatever. I hate golf.
Yeah.
It's the world's worst sport. Everybody's got talent in different areas.
Yeah.
I'm sure if I lined up and did judo, I'd get my butt kicked.
That's right. Well, Coach, man, we do appreciate you coming on here. I know.
Well, I'm honored to be here. This has been a lot of fun.
I mean, this is the first time I've met you, but I've heard a whole lot from you from Clint about you from Clint, and I respect the profession and the job you did at Tech so much. And I know, Clint, you as always talked with nothing but respect for you. It does like calling you Dirty Steve Mullins sometimes.
We don't.
I've heard that a lot.
I think that was your basketball playing ability. They said you were Dirty Steve. They call you Dirty Steve.
Well, no doubt. Yeah, I'm trying to win. If you can't jump, you got to make sure other people can't jump either.
That's right. Amen to that.
Yeah, there's so many stories. We didn't have time to get to running down Mount Bebo, 100 up down day. You remember
I participated in the 100 up down.
No, that's what I was going to say. And you ran down Mount Nebo. And I remember when I ran down it, me and Todd Matthews, we got next to each other, and we were just like, okay, we just don't want to get stuck. We just had to stay in front of Big Los. We knew you were going to go all the way down, and then you were going to come running back up and run with the last guy.
That's correct.
So got to stay in front of Carlos Austin. That's all we had to do. We would see the headlights on the van come around, and like, and then we wouldn't see the headlights anymore. We'd take off walking, then we'd see the headlights.
Nothing funner than running down Mount Nebo.
No, it's hard to break.
Yeah.
There you go.
I should have done it twice, but Travis said I had to marry her.
That's right. Yeah, I performed Clint's first wedding up on Mount Nebo.
Oh, okay.
He's blamed me for that ever since.
Oh no.
Although, Coach, funny story. Me and Clint had a deal. We'd get, if we were going on a road trip somewhere or fixing to go do something, we'd just go on the radio and hit the scan button and find a theme song for that trip.
Oh, okay.
Well, we leave his house in Russellville to go to Mount Nebo, and we're in my truck, and he said, we need a theme song. He hits the scan button, and it lands on Leonard Skinner, Give Me 3 Steps. Give me 3 steps, mister. Give me 3 steps toward
the door, huh?
Yeah, I should have listened.
Yeah.
I should have listened.
Now looking back on it, we're like, oh, that was an appropriate theme song.
Lord moves in mysterious ways.
Right. Well, Coach, man, seriously, thank you so much. And
thank both of you guys.
And one thing that's so neat, Clint, I know we talked about South Arkansas a little bit, but right here on 67, 167, or Highway 79, whatever this 4-lane is out here. From Camden, you got in Tuberville, and there's been some other coaches.
Bear Bryant.
Well, then you got in Fordyce, you got Larry Lacewell, Bear Bryant, and Jimmy Red Parker.
Yeah, Coach Parker. Had a lot of respect for him.
He was at OBU when I was there. I took football coaching under him.
Oh my!
Got to hear some of his stories. That was a lot of fun.
He's had he's a great storyteller.
Yeah,
or was a great storyteller.
With so many, so many great coaches came from just this little area. And hey, and Johnny Cash right down the road too.
Dang straight. That's right.
So, when you got music like that raising you up, you know you're going to be good. But
I hear you.
Anyway, Coach, seriously, thanks a lot so much for being on here.
Well, thank y'all.
I'm going to stop recording here in just a second, but stay on here a minute. We'll say our goodbyes. But y'all, thank you so much for watching this or listening to this podcast. We're on Amazon, we're on Apple, we're on Spotify, all those different places. We have a lot of neat things coming up, so be paying attention. Like and share this episode with other folks, especially if they're football fans and been around coaching and sports. What a great time we had here. So, Coach, thank you so much. Clint, wasn't too bad. You didn't have to take off.
No, he didn't blow the whistle at all. I feel good.
I think he called you sexy and fat in the same episode.
It did tell me I was a terrible football player. So
That's right. So
it's like college all over again.
That's right. We got it all covered.
Everybody have a great week. God bless and see ya.
Sweat, work, filthy, dirt, harvest, hurt, kingdom come, sweat, work, filthy, dirt, harvest, hurt, kingdom come. Listen, that's why I sweat when I work. My hands get filthy down in this dirt. Won't see no harvest till I hurt. Crying, your kingdom come. Listen, I wake up in the morning, I bow my head to pray. Mama told me if I don't, ain't nothing gonna change.